What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a video that I've been waiting to do for a long time. Really excited about this. This is the Spyderco Kapara. If you follow me on Instagram or you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I have been very excited and wanting to get my hands on this for a long time. This would have been on my my video where I said, these are the top 10 or top 15 knives that I really want to review, except that my good buddy Chris Gonzalez offered to go ahead and pick this up and send it my way immediately. So this is Chris's knife. He hasn't even handled it yet. He went ahead and sent it to me for review, so I'm excited to get this done so I can get it back to him. Thank you so much, Chris. As usual, the reason I'm able to keep up this continuous stream of content, sometimes 2 videos a day, is absolutely because of my generous patrons. This channel gets expensive to constantly send knives out and insure them and get new knives in. So if you guys are enjoying my channel and you're enjoying this stream of content, and if you'd like to support me, please follow the link in the description to my Patreon. Have a look around, and then if you'd like to, you can join any tier. The support would absolutely mean the world to me and would help me get closer to my goal, which you can read about there. We also do once a week Patreon exclusive videos, which I think you guys will find really entertaining. Anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement on this guy. Overall length of the Spyderco Kapara, tomato. I'm not sure exactly how most people like to pronounce it. I think I'm going to say Kapara. 8 1/4 inches overall. The tip to scale blade length is coming in some places you could actually call it 3.75, which is interesting. The actual cutting edge is coming in at 3.5 inches. That is, not only is that going to hit a lot of sweet spots for a lot of people, those are some pretty impressive ratios. Very, very cool. Anybody who doesn't know, Spyderco Kapara is a very hot item right now in the knife world, this higher end production knife world. It recently had they call it a CQI, constant quality improvement that Spyderco does. I hope I'm getting that right. They added a bushing inside the pivot. A lot of people said, I love this thing, it's great, but I wish it had the drop shut action of a PM2 or Shaman or some of those other knives, and they did that. They went ahead and did that. I want to make this very clear at the beginning of the video. I don't think that means that every single person who bought one of the original Kaparas should sell it and run out and buy this new version. No, in terms of utility, you still have a very high functioning, very high-end quality knife. They just made some minor improvements to cater towards what a lot of us really snobby people really look for in our $150 to $200 knives. Anyways, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here. So up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see there it's just a little bit longer. Sorry about the glare on the knife there. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? I think this is a really important size comparison. I think it's pretty obvious, that a lot of people who enjoy the PM2 would enjoy the Kapara for many reasons. In fact, I'll be doing a direct comparison or battle video between these two. I think a lot of people would like to see that. Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall, so just a hair longer. Let me measure here. It's just, they're so close. Yeah, the Spyderco PM2 is just 8.3. Kapara is exactly 8.25. They're just a hair difference there, but you get more cutting edge with the Kapara, and you still get the choil, which solves the issue that I've always talked about with the PM2, that the handle is just so handle! It's so much, Sorry for yelling in everybody's ears, but that's something we'll talk about in the comparison. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall, so just a little bit shorter. You can see there it's not nearly as tall a blade, solving the issues of carry profile in Spyderco knives with the spider hole there. How about up against the Benchmade Bugout? Benchmade Bugout coming in at 7.5 inches overall. You can see they're very same in terms of height of the blade. It's similar in that territory. And how about up against the Spyderco Para 3? The Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. In terms of blade thickness, we're looking at about 135 or so thousandths. Let's go ahead and use my calipers here and measure. Make sure she's zeroed out. Okay. Maybe more like 125 thousandths. It's definitely thin. It's definitely thinner on the spine than the Spyderco Para 3 or the Spyderco PM2. So what you end up with, despite the PM2 still being an excellent slicer, that's because it has more room to drop towards the cutting edge. What you end up with the Kapara is definitely a performance-oriented blade. Absolutely. How about the action on this guy? Well, on the CQI version, as you can see here, it is absolutely dropped shut. If you guys watched me unbox that, it does that right out of the box. It's incredibly smooth. No issues there whatsoever. It's also very fun to deploy with the reverse flick and the forward flick, things like that. It is actually a little bit more difficult to engage on the reverse flick than, say, a PM2. So those of you who like to deploy your PM2 that way, PM2 and the Para 3 are still definitely easier, but it has those elements, so you'll enjoy that. How about the weight on this guy? So the Kapara is using, it's got contoured carbon fiber, and then we do have milling on the inside of the steel liners. They are full steel liners though, they do come out to the lips, so keep that in mind. Overall weight of this guy coming in an impressive 3.35 ounces. Those of you who subscribe to the idea that knives that are optimally set up for EDC have a good ounce to blade length ratio, ounce and inch, whatever. This knife clears that. So it's going to fit there. As I always say, carry profile is important. So the actual profile of this knife, both in terms of height and thickness, is better all the way around, in my opinion, than what happened to my, there it is, Para 3. It's better, I mean, it's easier to carry in terms of height than either of these knives, and then in overall thickness, even considering the contouring, it's still just a hair better. But that doesn't mean that either the Para 2 and Para 3 are bad knives to carry. You know, the Para 3 is definitely a shorter knife. So in terms of carry, it's definitely going to be easier to carry than the PM2, in my opinion. An argument could be made for the overall length of the Para 3, but I would say the Kapara is still definitely super duper easy to carry. We'll talk about that more in the direct comparison. Okay, so moving on here, let's talk about profile and materials here. We're looking at CPM S30V steel. This is one of those knives that's made in Taichung, Taiwan. I don't like to see the word Taiwan on my knives, but okay, I've kind of gotten over, you know, good knives can be made outside of the United States. I didn't used to be like that. I used to think, you know, only USA made knives are premium. That's actually not true. And in the case of Spyderco, many will argue that fit and finish is actually better than the Golden Colorado line in the Taichung, Taiwan plant, the PM2 being made in Golden, Colorado, USA Earth, for those of you who didn't know what planet they were manufactured on. Sorry, that was a joke. Yeah, CPM S30V and Spyderco, and then Taichung, Taiwan, they do a good job of keeping everything else off the blade. You can see the designer's name right there, which is, the name is escaping me at the moment. Lots of information to remember. I love the satin finishing on the blade. I will say there's still, it's definitely better, I think, than the original, but I can still catch my fingernail on that edge a little bit. I wouldn't call it sharp. It has been knocked down to my knowledge from the original version. That's fine. Whether you have the original version or this version, or you're thinking about buying it, I mean, just know that the original version is totally fine in the blade finishing department. Their edges, I think, are just a little bit sharper. You have a perfect edge, just absolutely flawless. I'll tell you guys right now, if it's not an absolute laser beam, it's very close. This is a super performance-oriented blade shape, more sheep's foot than anything else. It does get pretty thin there down at the tip, but you have quite a bit of material. In fact, more material down at the tip than your Spyderco PM2. So I think in terms of durability, you're probably going to be relatively close to the same department between the two. But I would say this one probably has an ever so slightly more durable tip. Curiously, it does not have jimping up here. I really wish that it had jimping. I love my options for ergonomics back here. I feel really locked in. I just really want the typical Spyderco jimping that I see like on the back of the PM2. Not that big of a deal. Don't really care that much. There's no sharpening choil on this guy. So keep in mind, those of you who are going to resharpen your knives over and over and over again because you're going to use them a lot, that's probably going to be an issue for you, but you can work around it. Some people make their own sharpening choils, whatever you want. There is a forward choil there. It's very, very ergonomic, very comfortable, and like I said, it solves an issue that was present in the PM2, whereas they just gave this more blade and they utilized the excess room in the handle. I mean, if we're pretending that this is an evolution of the PM2, which I kind of am, then they just made better use of the space on the handle and better use of the potential overall blade length. So you truly have 3.5 inches of blade, and that's great for those of you who can carry a knife of this overall size and blade length. If you are in an area where they don't allow blades over 3 inches or at 3.5 or higher, that's going to be kind of an issue because this blade comes in uncontroversially at over 3.5 inches. It'd be cool if they made a smaller one, right? If they made a little guy, a little Kapara, I totally would be on board with that. Moving on here to the handles, we do have contoured carbon fiber. It is real carbon fiber. It is not that laminate or sticker stuff where they just do the thin strip on top and G10 underneath. No, it is definitely carbon fiber. They have been nicely rounded off all the way around. Corners are just a little bit pokey. I won't call them sharp. They're just a little pokey. I do like the look of the pivot. I love that it's T8. I also love that the body screws are T8. Thank you. T8 body screws. You got 2 of them going into a backspacer on both sides. Perfect. That's exactly how it should be. Love that. I also like the lips of the scales coming all the way out. In the future, you know, if aftermarket companies decide to make scales for this, it should be pretty easy. The contouring is another thing, but I feel like, you know, it's kind of easier to make scales that don't have to account for a cartridge liner being sunk into them. It's just less work. I don't know, that's just my take on that. That's kind of why I like that. I also like the look of it in contrast with the scales. I also like how it feels. This knife feels solid. It gives me that feeling of solidity and quality that I expect with a knife of this price, which we're going to talk about. But they've taken the time, like I said, to do some excess milling in there, keeping the weight down nice and low. I love the red backspacer in this guy. I love it. The Kapara being named after some sort of redback spider, that makes sense to me, given the whole Spyderco thing and the red backspacer. And yeah, that's cool. This is the only knife that I've ever seen, one of the only knives I've ever seen. I think I said this about the Spidey Chef too, where I don't mind the wire clip. The wire clip to me by itself just looks like a paper clip. It looks very cheap. Everybody seems to love this thing, and I was always like, why? It looks so cheap. You know, it does, the benefit of it is if you're in an area where you don't really want people knowing that you're carrying a pocket knife, especially one that's this big, a wire clip doesn't look like anything. You know, that it could literally be anything hanging out of your pocket, especially on a knife like this where there's hardly anything else but that clip. It's deep carry. It's absolutely flawless on the in and out of the pocket. I mean, in and out, this thing is so easy. Running smooth up against that contoured carbon fiber, in and out of the pocket, this thing is absolutely a joy. So that's great. You have another T8 pivot on the other side. I would imagine, like other Spydercos, there's a prevention on the inside that keeps the pivot from free spinning. From what I've seen in other videos, this thing is so easy to take down. It's like the Shaman. It's just unbelievably simple to take down, clean out, and put back together. It also runs on phosphor bronze, which is great considering the action that we have here. This knife has the fidget factor. It's got the fun fidget factor and deployment, you know, in combination with the compression lock, which is, you know, plenty strong for where this knife was designed to be used. I mean, this knife is just set up as a good all-around user. And actually it's got elements that a lot of other people appreciate. You know, if you're looking for something that's kind of a unique look, if you're looking something that has like the refined elements, the contoured carbon fiber, it's got the flashy, color combinations here between the red and the black. It's got the fidget factor. It's got the super performance oriented blade with some elements of increased durability versus other knives in the same caliber and price range. I mean, this is going to cater to so many people. I'm not the first person to review this by a long shot. Everybody's saying pretty much the same thing. Everybody likes it. Guys, at 13 minutes and 38 seconds, I can tell you, yeah, this is a good knife. I can definitely recommend it. I'm going to go ahead and recommend it. If that's all you wanted to hear, then you can move on. You're going to love this. Access to the compression lock on this guy is super easy. It came perfectly centered. There is no blade play up, down, left, or right. It's awesome. I do have a couple of nitpicks. The corners are a little pointy. That's okay. No, it's not really that big of a deal. I like knives that I have said, you know, in reviews, like, hey, the pocket clip is kind of a hot spot, and it's more of a hot spot on those knives than these corners are pokey on this knife, if that makes sense. I don't have an issue with that. You guys know I'd like to see jimping up there, no big deal. There's no sharpening choil, again, no big deal. Some of the lines up here are just ever so slightly sharp enough to kind of grind away at my fingernail. It's not that big of a deal. Truthfully, the only real nitpick I have with this is the access to the thumb hole is not what I'm used to. I mean, most of us are going to be more used to the Para 3 and the Para 2. A lot of us who are considering buying this grew fond of these knives. These knives have easy access to that thumb hole. It's very, very easy to get your finger in there because there's lots of space, right? Now, they're also, the blades are raised to accommodate for the easy access to that thumb hole. Well, what they did is they got rid of that raise and brought the thumb hole down to make this a little bit more pocket friendly in terms of the profile, which, by the way, the profile is nearly perfect on this knife. It carries very well. But it makes the thumb hole a little bit harder to access on the reverse flick and on the forward flick. I can still do it and I'll adapt to it, but it would have been so nice to have an additional scallop right here, just a little bit more room on this side and this side. Now I know some people are like, that adds a little bit more cost, and it kind of takes away from the look that they've got going on here, right? The carbon fiber has this sort of flow, or the handle has this flow mixed with the contouring that creates this really nice, elegant look. Perhaps adding a scallop right there or a little area cut out to make access to the thumb hole easier might have taken away from the appearance that they were going for. Fair argument. I still want more access there. That's my only qualm with this. Guys, I don't know that there's anything else I can say. This knife is going to go on 2 playlists. It's going to go on my most recommended knives, and it's also going to go on my favorite knives of all time. I absolutely love this knife. I loved it exactly as much as I thought that I was going to. This was a very straightforward, very easy review. What's the price on this guy? For those of you who don't know, it's $187. Despite it not being made in the United States, I'm 100% on board with that price. There's a lot of elements here that are just so worth the money. Not just the materials. S30V, yeah, 100% okay with that. The contoured carbon fiber looks great. You don't need excess texturing on the handle to get a good grip because of the contoured or the ergonomic lines just being so excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. This is definitely one of the best folding knives out there right now for the money. I mean, in this price range, not for the money. There's definitely knives that are just as good for less money, but if this is what you're looking for the ultimate product of, not necessarily the ultimate product, but you're looking for a product that's just really good in like just about every area, has a lot of the elements that we expect as the knife community in this day and age, but at the same time can pretty much be used anywhere for a lot of different things. Not everything. This isn't a fixed blade, but a lot of different things. Then yeah, this is going to make you happy. You know, a lot of you wondering like, is the Kapara really going to make me happy? Yeah, it's going to make you happy. You know, a lot of people aren't going to like the aesthetic, but if you're okay with the aesthetic, you know, some people see Spyderco knives like this and they think dead bird, and some people think elegant, classy, cool, different, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, if you like how Spyderco knives look, then you're going to love this knife. I can absolutely recommend it. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed this overview/review, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe because there's definitely more content coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.